one of the things that I wanted to bring out is that if you guys want to do something that's more on the electoral side, and by electoral side, I mean the ballot measure side, this is something that was sent to me from Roger Meadows. I want to share this as well. This is a how-to on getting ballot measures done. So even if you're organizing on the ground and you don't want to depend on politicians, you can circumvent politicians and actually do things that are direct democracy in order to get things done on the ground. You can even reference Eric's 11 demands in order to form a ballot measure so that it can be put on the books so that it can help out the people. So you guys can do that as well. So I'm just going to go real quick over some of these because this is also very important, how ballot measures get on the ballot. So, and I read this on my channel, but I think this is important to put here. I'm sorry. So somebody says something? Okay. See you later, Sabs.
Bye, Savvy.
So it says when voters take to the polls, they not only vote on political candidates, but also ballot measures. Most voters know where they can stand on these measures, but how much thought is given to how they made it onto the ballot in the first place? To answer the question, one of the first define a ballot measure. A ballot measure is a proposed law, issue, constitutional amendment, or question that appears on a statewide or local ballot for voters of the jurisdiction to vote on. In the United States, a ballot measure can make it onto the ballot through one of three means: citizen initiative, legislative referral, or automatically in some states. Each state has different requirements to get an issue to appear on the ballot. However, most ballot measures are placed on the ballot through citizen initiatives or legislative referrals. So you have the citizen ballot initiative. So it says citizen ballot initiative allows states to propose constitutional. I'm sorry, go ahead. Somebody said something? Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I heard something. Says the citizen initiative process allows citizens to propose a constitutional or statutory amendment or a veto referendum for inclusion on the ballot. This can be achieved through direct or indirect means, both of which require citizens to collect a specified number of signatures prior to being placed on the ballot. Citizen ballot measures refers to, okay, so it gives the history behind it. Okay, so that's citizen ballot measures, okay? And that's 18 states that allow for it. And then 21 states allow for citizen-initiated amendments. And then Maryland and New Mexico allow for veto referendums. Now, this talks about, you know, the steps into doing that. And don't worry, I'm going to be sharing this link so that you guys have this information as well. Okay? So we're going to move on to the next one, which is legislatively referred ballot measures. Another common method placing measure on the ballot. It says a legislatively referred ballot measure is an issue, question, or law that appears on the state or local ballot due to a vote by state legislators. So it's not necessarily the citizen, but the legislator that puts it on. So it says, in addition, says statutory or constitutional amendments can be proposed through legislative referrals. Legislative referred statutes, also known as legislative referendums or referendum bills, only require a voter approval if they amend a statute that was previously enacted through a citizen initiative. Constitutional amendments referred by a state legislator require voter approval out of 49 50 states, regardless of how the constitutional provision was taking place. Delaware is the only state where voter approval is not required. Okay. And then automatically referred ballot measures can also put before the public for a vote without action from citizens, a legislator or governing body. This process is referred to automatic ballot referral, which is often outlined in state law or state's constitution. So this one is it automatically appears on the ballot under certain circumstances, basically. So here are the states that have it. You have a list of all 50 states that you can take a look at. Like, for instance, Florida does the citizen ballot and also legislative ballot, but does not do the automatic. So different states have different criterias. So I am going to be sending this to all of you so that you guys can look into this as well. Just as a reference to let you guys know, here in Florida, we're actually going to get recreational cannabis on our ballot for this November. So if it passes, cannabis is going to be fully legal recreationally in the state of Florida. Crazy to think about it, right? But this is also the same state that passed the $15 an hour minimum wage. So that's also something that you can incorporate as well into your movement building too, in addition to doing mutual aid and activism on the ground too.
Yeah, radical stuff happens with ballot measures, right? I mean, stuff you never think would happen can happen with them. You know, they are an awesome, great tool. Mm-hmm. There's been talk too of like having them at the federal level, you know, which would be really cool.
Definitely. Your thoughts, Colin?
Yeah, I think these are all important, and something that I wanted to say earlier, but it's kind of connected to this. You need to be talking with your councilman locally in terms of making the case for a lot of these measures, especially if you're a ballot initiative state, if you have access to them. Now, generally speaking, they will have to have community events to kind of talk about budget and all this kind of stuff. So that would be your opportunity. And this is what I've been able to do with my organizing. And this is part of what you were saying, JB, as far as the background stuff. Like, I've had to have conversations with councilmen in DC actually over the last couple of months and various opportunities, actually talking about a child tax credit with them. Like, so obviously you have to, in these cases, you have to be somewhat nice and have more polite language than you might be using on Twitter or whatever. But as Afeni was saying earlier, this is about relationship. And the good thing is, given what I've been doing, a lot of councilmen know me, and more importantly, they know me as a teacher. So while they might say, I'll say this, I'm not easy to dismiss because they know, oh, we know this guy because he actually teaches. He's part of the community, so he actually knows what he's talking about. So at least for me, they have to kind of pretend that they somewhat care. But then it comes to the question of, again, these are the people who control the budget. So if it's in your city or town, so if you do not know who they are, but you're able to say who the president is, that's a problem, because these are the people that have the most direct. They're the people who affect you the most directly in your life. So these are the people, and these are generally the people that you'll have the most access to. So our organizing is making your case to your leaders. And so if you have opportunities in your city or town, especially if councilmen have their meetings in terms of what the budget is going to look like, how they're going to spend the budget, what policies they're going to do in making the budget, you should be at those meetings and making your case of, because as I said, they might budget something that may not benefit you. And especially, and along with that, that's also kind of where ballot initiatives kind of come in too. So you want to make your case for that in terms of what they can elevate as part of that platform, so that you have a lot of these policies passed. So where you can, and you can, and it's easier to do it as part of an organization because its numbers matter. To be able to meet with councilmen however you can to bring up a policy or an issue and uplift it to them and see what they say.
That's some very sage advice, Colin. I really appreciate that. And that is something that needs to be said. And I think the phrase is all politics is local, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so sorry, go ahead.
No, that's what I'm saying. And this is how we have, and I think the argument that people make on the federal level that everything on the federal level is slow. We know that. But we better our chances if we do things more on the local and state level, because and this is how typically movements begin to grow. Like, as a lot of states, implement a lot of these policies, more progressive policies that actually benefit people, That's when the federal government, they will have to kind of take notice and be like, oh, we see that in X number of states, there's this policy, like that is actually kind of popular. And that's what you can use as leverage in terms of anyone who's running for Congress, anyone who's running for the Senate on the federal level. That's your leverage to be like, look, we have this policy, but it's not implemented on the federal level yet. So what are you going to do about it? So that's a way that you can kind of build that momentum in terms of having these issues elevated, but it has to start on the local level first. If you do that and continue at it, then that's what's going to drive that momentum for other states to kind of follow suit. Again, which we have seen, that eventually it can be elevated more on the federal level and, have a better chance of having it pass.
Gotcha. Thank you so very much for that, especially.